I respectfully rise in opposition to SB 1290, sponsored by the Union Caucus of the state legislature. This bill will force the city of San Diego to join a union project labor agreement in order to receive state funding for their Pure Water project. Pure Water would be an advanced treatment facility that could produce 30 million gallons of purified water every day, providing for a third of San Diego's drinking water, which I think is very innovative. We've talked a lot about clean water on the floor this year, so I'm curious why we're now talking about stopping clean water from being delivered to millions of people in our state's second largest city. But let me give you a little background on this bill. The people spoke when Proposition A passed by 58% in 2012. None of the city's project imposed a PLA requirement, but I guess the big labor union bosses didn't like what the people decided. Again, the people aren't being listened to in the state of California, and frankly, I think they're getting a little bit upset. So in November of 2018, the city of San Diego and the big labor union bosses passed an ordinance that kept non-union apprenticeships and apprentices from working on 3 of the Pure Water projects. If big labor bosses couldn't convince the voters, I guess they figured they could intimidate the elected officials to give them their win. But about a year later, a lawsuit was filed against the big labor union bosses. The court ruled that the city was wrong and that forcing only union apprentices to be used violated the people's intent of Proposition A. After that ruling, legal negotiations began, and they're still going on, which brings me here today. AB 1290's goal is to resolve a city legal dispute over unions. You all know who unions are, as they control this legislature. This measure's intent is to violate local control and the will of the voters in the name of big labor union bosses. How many bills are we going to see this year where the Union Caucus is more important to the voting members of this body than the citizens of the state of California? AB 1290 is nothing more than another agenda item for this legislature's famed Union Caucus. Big labor lost in San Diego when they lost Proposition A. This bill is nothing more than a way for big labor bosses to go to their friends in the legislature to change the rules after the fact to thwart the will of the voters in San Diego. My friends, you can't honestly say that this is the will of the voters, and in some cases on issues you agree with them, and in some you just ignore their will, and on other issues you just disagree with them on those issues. The will of the people is just that you can't pick and choose which issues you think the people got right and which ones you think they got wrong. If you're really a believer in local control, if you're really a believer that the citizens of the state really control this state, you should vote no on this bill. If it passes, it shows that this body cares more about taking care of the unions and their bosses than listening to the will of the people in honor of the 40 million people that depend on us to make good decisions for them and not for the unions. I urge a no vote on AB 1290.